Poker's legendary champions, next generation stars, and tireless ambassadors of the game, sharing their wisdom and guiding your journey to high achievement on the green felt. This is Chasing Poker Greatness with your host, Brad Wilson.
Welcome, my friend, to the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast. As always, this is your host, the founder of ChasingPokerGreatness.com, Brad Wilson. And today's guest on the show is Craig Mason. Craig has had a love affair with the game of poker for as long as he can remember. Back in the Moneymaker Boom, when he was a special education teacher, he would travel to the WSOP in Vegas just to sit in the bleachers and watch his heroes fight tooth and nail for life-changing cash, prestige, and the hardware that comes with victory. Fast forward to 2018, we're at the PartyPoker Caribbean Poker Party, which is quite a mouthful to say. Craig found himself under the bright lights, looking to have his breakthrough moment while battling at the final table with a cool $1.5 million up top. You're about to hear this story and many more straight from Craig in just a few moments. In today's show, you're going to learn the amazing way Craig skyrocketed his poker game after only a few days of getting coaching by legendary online crusher and past Chasing Poker Greatness guest Mark Dipthrong Herm, how Craig's off-the-table work did or didn't contribute to his massive poker breakthrough, why Craig highly advocates for one-to-one private coaching, and much, much more. So without any further ado, I bring to you a crusher who is living out his poker dream, Craig Mason. Craig, good morning, sir. How you doing?
Morning, man. Doing well. Just waking up, hanging out. Kids about to get ready for school and hanging out here in Vegas.
Yeah, it's much earlier for you. I'm very surprised. It's 7 a.m. in Vegas, and you are awake and with it and ready for the podcast, which I have to say is not typical for poker players in general.
Well, I have a 1-year-old baby and a 8-year-old daughter, so I'm used to waking up early now. I wake up probably 6 o'clock every morning, so this is nothing new to me. I'm used to waking up.
It's kind of funny. It reminds me of Jungle came on the pod, and he sent me a message at like 8:30 a.m. one time and was like, "Hey, let's do it." And I don't even know like where the hell he was, but it was like 8:30 for me. And I have to assume he was probably just awake all night. Like there was no sleep involved in that specific instance. But yeah, it's good having you on the show. And as we typically do here, I want to start out by asking you the story of how you got involved playing cards.
Cool. So I, like most other people that got into poker, I started watching on TV, Chris Moneymaker. I just got completely obsessed with it. Really, I was just watching all the time, and then I would I had like a fake ID. So I grew up in New York, and
how old are you, by the way?
I am 34.
34. All right.
So I was, let me see, 2003. I guess I was like 17 around when the Moneymaker thing happened. And so yeah, I just fell in love with poker, got completely obsessed, started, depositing $50 on PartyPoker, Intertops Poker, Ultimate Bet, all the sites you could think of. Just watching every type of poker, anything that was on TV, just completely obsessed. And then
why did poker resonate with you like that? Why were you obsessed with the game when there's an unlimited amount of things to be obsessed with, right? Like, why poker specifically?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I think I think it was just the fact of that these guys were able to it's probably Chris Moneymaker specifically, or just these guys went on and they were winning millions of dollars, and it just I was like, whoa, this is unbelievable. I can't really tell you what it was. It's just something, but I mean, I've always loved sports, but like something about poker just really like sat with me, and I just loved it.
Were you a natural when you first picked up the game? Like, were you naturally just curious about the strategy? What was that like?
No, actually, I was pretty bad at the beginning. I think I was more for my first like few years of poker, maybe even more than 2 years. I was like more of a fanboy than anything. Like I would even like when I would my first summer at the World Series of Poker, like I would go out there and I would literally maybe play like a little bit for I'll go out for a week or two, play like a couple small sitting goes, but I would just sit there and watch final tables. Like I would just go to the main stage at the Rio and just sit there for 10 hours and watch Tom Dwan at a final table, watch, whoever, Doyle, Jackie Chan, whoever, any
Johnny Chan, not Jackie Chan.
sorry. Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan. All these guys, Phil Hellmuth, whoever it was, and I was just like completely obsessed with watching. And I don't even think at that point. So I actually was I was a teacher. I was a special education teacher. I worked for an agency, like doing some tutoring, and then I was also a classroom teacher for a very small time. But anyway, yeah, I don't think I ever imagined that I would actually be playing poker for a living one day. I think I just really just loved the game. I just like to watch it, and yeah, I could never imagine that I would actually be playing out for a living with a lot of the guys that I saw on TV.
So you would fly to Vegas, stay in Vegas for a few weeks, and just watch all the final tables.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I would play like I had some friends that would like take pieces of me. I would play like 2-5, no limit, or play some small $150 sitting goes, or maybe like if I took like a huge shot, I would like sell out half in like a 1K no limit tournament and play like one tournament the whole summer. But yeah, mostly I would just go there. I was so happy. I remember I had a friend of mine that was like he was a huge fan of poker as well, and he would come. He had like an ultimate bet sweatshirt, and he would like come and get it all signed by all the players and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I never did that, but I would like, I was the type of guy that would walk into the room and be like, oh my God, that's this guy, that's this guy, that's this guy. I just love poker.
And, that love of poker, how old were you when you're just, watching these final tables? Like, how old were you then? And then you mentioned that you're a teacher, so also want to transition into, making poker a larger part of your life and going away from teaching. Like, how did that all come about?
I think, yeah, so I was teaching. I really honestly hated teaching, to tell you the truth. I was just like, I got into like a bad situation. I got called in the middle of the school year, and basically, so I would assume now it's different, but back then, like, it was very hard in New York to get like a full-time teaching position, believe it or not. Like it was really hard. So
why? What do you mean by hard? Like
all the like everything was all the positions were filled. Like you could only really, it was hard. You had to like have a connection or work your way through being a substitute teacher or being like a teacher's assistant in a school like for a couple of years to work your way until get a head teaching position. So it was difficult to get a teaching position. So
that's
I got
shocking.
a phone call like in the middle of the year, and they were like, "Oh, we want to bring you in for an interview." So I came in, did the interview, and I wound up getting the job. And it was in like a really bad area in Brooklyn, New York, which I was living in Long Island at the time. So it was like, I don't know if you know much about New York traffic, but
I know literally nothing.
Okay, so New York, there's really, really, really bad traffic. So anyway, I was driving, let's just say it was 45-minute drive with no traffic at all.
Oof.
But yeah, so literally it was probably double that at least each way. And I was going there, and it was just horrible. It was in a very bad neighborhood. I actually found out later on that the teacher before me had committed suicide.
Holy shit.
We don't know if it was from the job or from her personal stuff, maybe a combination of both. But regardless, I lasted about half a school year there and quit the job. I couldn't take it anymore. Then I started working for another company, which was I was called a SEIT, which is a special education itinerant teacher. It's kind of like a certified teacher that's a tutor. Basically, I was working with children with special needs, like going to their homes and working on different, like children with autism.
Could we stop 1 second? Why special education? Like, why did you want to be a teacher, and why specifically did special education resonate with you so much?
So when I grew up, I actually was in special education myself, and obviously very high functioning special education. There's all different levels, but I had some teachers that like really just, I had really great relationships with, and I think it kind of just inspired me to want to do it, even though here we are now, and I didn't really last too long in the field. But at the time, I think that's basically what it was. I had some great teachers that like really, really, cared about me and the other students. So I was like, this might be something that I would want to do one day.
Sure. Okay, cool. Yeah. Continue on. I was just curious as to, why you chose that specific field.
Yeah. So, and I always like worked in camps and stuff with children. I always loved working with kids. Like I've always loved kids. But so anyway, where was it? Okay, so yeah, so I had that job, and then I started working another job, and where I was mostly like basically like a tutor for special needs children. Then I worked an after school job, but then I really started playing. So I would like work a little bit, but then I was playing in these poker clubs in New York. A lot of these elite I'm sure you know about them, underground.
Yeah.
I would start playing a ton. I remember there was this one club in Long Island, and I would go straight from student teaching right to there, play like the afternoon session of the cash game, go home for a little bit, and then come back again at nighttime. And I started playing there every single day. It was like 2-5 no limit. Pretty sure that's what it was. And they had like some tournaments at night or whatever. So still doing that, going back and forth. And then
had you gone from like fanboy to legitimately learning about poker, immersion, trying to be the best poker player that you could be yet, or were you just still kind of messing around?
No, I wanted to win, but I think at that point it was more so like, I think I was at a point in my life where I just wanted to have fun, and like teaching was like not it for me. Like I was getting like not depressed, but like I just didn't really like it. So like poker was like more of an outlet for me at that point. Like I wasn't really like studying the game at that point. No, I wasn't, but I was just playing. Like I like, meeting some guys there and hanging out and whatever. I was actually very overweight at the time. They would always like cater from like nice restaurants, and I was eating a ton of food, and I just, I was enjoying it. But no, I definitely wasn't studying.
Well, you must not have been getting totally smashed, right? Because I have to imagine that like student teaching is probably not going to lend itself to like replenishing your bankroll on a weekly basis, right?
No, so the thing is, even when I was like, so I would say bad at poker, I was always a nit. So I was actually always kind of a winning player, because I never really like, there's like when you're a nit, and especially in these type of games, I'm sure you don't know much about them, but you're playing with a lot of guys that are.
I know the type of games.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I've put my time in it at private home games, like in my area, and I just have to imagine that they're probably pretty similar across the United States.
Exactly. So you have guys that are just going all in blind and doing stupid stuff. So being a nit in those games, I mean, yeah, I wasn't actually crushing the games, but I was certainly, I was making a little bit of money, enough to keep going back for sure.
Cool.
So anyway, yeah, so I was doing that for a while, and then same thing, like I can't remember exactly how long of a time frame this was, but I would say for a couple of years, like I would do that. And then like, same thing, World Series poker would come around, I would come out. And like, I think each year, like I started doing a little bit more at the World Series, like kind of transitioning from not watching as much to playing more, but like still not like never playing a full schedule, but I would go and like play more of the sitting goes and then, maybe play like 3 or 4 World Series events. And then this probably happened for a couple years. And then eventually, so I had a friend of mine that happened to be good friends with Paul Volpe and Mark Herm, two amazing tournament players. And so this is, like I said, I can't remember the exact time frame, but I want to say this was maybe around 2015 or 16. So anyway, he was like, yeah, Mark, I'm friends with Paul Volpe, who happens to be good friends with Mark Hearn, who's like an amazing tournament player. And at this point, like I saw all these guys, you see a lot of the same names winning and winning and winning. And I was like, I like poker. Like I want to win something, like I don't want to just be like a mediocre player my whole life. Like I actually want to learn to be good. So he got me in touch with Mark and, Mark's super, super nice guy. He
Tell
worked
me,
something out. He's like, yeah, why don't you come over to my house and we can, you can watch me play online on Sundays and start working together.
tell me how did it feel to get connected with these guys that are like, the crushers of the crushers that like you've been going to the WSOP and these are guys that are making final tables. These are guys that are like having massive, massive success. And now all of a sudden you've got an opportunity to, gain a mentor, gain a coach.
I think at that point, like the fanboy in me like came out again. I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe like I'm even associating with these guys. And then like I didn't even really I don't think like at that time I even thought like, oh wow, like maybe one day I can make a final table or one day I can have a huge score. Like I don't even think at that point that thought process was I think I was just so excited to be learning from him and just like even just like hanging out and watching him play. I thought it was like I remember like telling some other friends like I'm going to Mark Herm's house. It's the coolest thing ever. Like I was psyched. And yeah, I mean, so after that I would go to work. I would go with him probably almost every Sunday. So it was like he lived in Pennsylvania and I was living in Queens, New York at the time, which was like probably about a 2.5 hour drive. And I would go on Sundays. He would let me like sleep over his house. I would just watch him all day play. Basically, I would play on like ACR or something, and he would, tell me some things. And I remember I was telling you this the other day. So the first night I went over there, I was watching him, and he had another friend over, and I remember like I couldn't believe it. Like to me at the time, like if I ever made a final table or anything, like of anything, I was like, it was amazing for me. But I remember like the first day I went there, these guys are grinding online and they're at like, before even like the big tournaments were close to being over, they had already like had like multiple like 20, 30K scores. And I was like, oh my God, like this is insane. Like, and it was like nothing to them. Like, oh yeah, we're at, I think they got like a second and a third and like whatever, some big online, nothing crazy, but and I was just like, whoa, like it was shocking to me. And then started watch him, and then later that night, I remember I was just so excited about like all I knew in poker was like play good cards, and that's it. I didn't know anything really about like three betting light or anything like that. I was just ABC classic nit poker, like you have ace king, you have ace queen, you have jacks, you have queens, you raise. Otherwise, like maybe like if I had like king queen suited, I would call a raise, but that was it. There was no three bets unless I had the best hand. So anyway, like he just taught me a completely new style of poker. Like, and I actually happened to like pick it up really quickly. So I just like erased. I told myself, I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna just literally erase everything I know about poker and just pretend like I didn't know anything, and now just do everything that Mark's teaching me. And anytime I'm in a situation, I'm gonna think like, what would Mark do in this situation? And I think, and I told you that night I played like a $27 tournament, like a couple thousand people, and I came in like seventh or eighth place or something. Maybe probably for less than $1,000, but I was just so excited that this was, I learned a lot from him just in that one day.
So I guess first of all, I'll say that like that level of caring, I think that Mark, it's a testament to the poker community at large and how generous they are as it relates to helping other people on their poker journeys. And like, Mark didn't really know you, right? And yet invites you to his home, lets you sweat him, and shows you like all the behind the scenes of like every action he's taking at every tournament. And I mean, that is invaluable, right? Like you can't buy that you can't just buy that online somewhere. And yet Mark did it just, because he's a good human being. And secondly, when you say you erased everything you learned about poker, like what does that exactly mean? How does somebody execute just erasing all the things and then uploading a brand new strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I was just like, okay, like once I went there, and I'm not like a stubborn type of person or arrogant. Like I'm not stupid. Like I went there and I know Mark is one of the best players ever online. So to me, like sometimes when I teach friends or try to explain stuff to them, like they'll always like be stubborn and stuck in their ways. But for me, it was just like, okay, like he's winning, he's doing something right. Like I've never really won anything. So I'm just gonna not listen to anything I've ever thought in poker, and I just completely go with what he says. And every time I was in a hand, I would just immediately think like think back to watching him or think back to what he told me, like what would Mark tell me to do in this situation? And I just went for it. And that's really how I got so much better. And, and then also like as time went on and playing more events and stuff, texting him and, we would go over all the hands that I was playing and some other hands he was playing. But like, yeah, I just pretty much just literally went from the biggest nit in poker to one of the most aggressive players. Because Mark's style is just like insanely aggressive. So it wasn't like I went from like being a nit to like learning from someone that's like maybe like a tight aggressive player. He's just like insane light 4-bet, 5-bet, 6-bet, whatever. So, yeah, it was like completely a new game of poker for me, but I adjusted really well to it. I loved it.
So tell me, going from, being a member of the Nittany Lions to being an aggressive psychopath, like tell me about your career post Mark Herm, full poker immersion, and just going balls to the wall.
So yeah, so after that, I believe I can't remember, like I said, time frames are a little off, but I think that it was during football season and it was like winter time. So what I want to say, I could look it up on my Hendon Mob, but I think it was probably 2016 or maybe 2015. But anyway, so I was working with him like the winter time, and then by that summer I went back, to the World Series again, and I think this time I can't remember. I think I was still working, like teaching part time, so I wasn't still fully playing poker for a living. But I went out there, and this time it was like definitely played way more tournaments than usual. Like I was, I felt a lot more. I could have never dreamed I would have like a huge win, but I definitely more confident from working with Mark, and I still hadn't had like a big result yet, like maybe a couple small things online. But anyway, so yeah, went out that summer and I came in sixth place in a 1500 WSOP event for like 72 or 73K. And I mean, at the time, that was like literally, it's still obviously a great accomplishment, but at the time, it was like everything for me. Like, made a World Series final table, like everything I ever dreamed of, watching these guys on TV. And here I am now. I made a World Series final table, like pretty cool thing to tell your friends and family.
Yeah, it's a nice journey from, being in the stands to being at the felt. Did you have 100% of yourself in that tournament?
I can't remember, but I think I had. If I didn't have 100%, it was. Oh no, you know what? I think I had like 85 or 90% of myself. Yeah, so I had most of it. I think at that time, I guess I must have been winning a little bit more in I was still playing in the poker clubs. I think I had built up like maybe a slight bit of a bankroll. So like, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I had like 85 or 90% of myself.
Yeah, that's good. Getting that, the first really big score and having most of yourself is a pretty big deal. It's a shot of adrenaline to your poker career. Had you met the woman who would be your wife yet? Were y'all married? I know you have kids now, right? So
yes. No. That I'll get to that point, but no,
okay.
at this point I was still single guy, and I was actually 80 pounds heavier than I am right now.
Oh man.
Yeah, wild. And I'm not exactly a skinny guy right now either. So it's funny that yeah, back then I'll let you know about my weight loss journey as well. But it
Yeah,
actually
for sure.
happened shortly after this World Series win. So yeah, so came in sixth place the World Series. I literally thought about it for like funny, you make a World Series for what poker player that plays tournaments doesn't want to win a bracelet? It's just like everyone's dream, and I made it there. And not that I regretted how I played, but I think I remember I busted, as a standard hand, the guy opened the button. I think I was in the small blind and shoved with sixes for like 20 bigs or something, and he called with ace king and won. But I just thought about that hand for a year or 2 years, until
How
you
was
have
the
your
night
next.
before? How was the night before? Like when you're going to be waking up to play the final table the next day?
Oh, so that final table, it wasn't like that. I think we stopped I think it was the final. I was down to the final maybe 27. It wasn't the final table, but yeah, it was still exciting to be in the final 27 of the World Series event for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, like you can see the finish line. I have to imagine you had some problems sleeping that night.
definitely. As we continue, my real big win that I had, that was, I'll let you know about that one, but there wasn't much sleep involved in that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right, sorry to interrupt. I just
No worries. Anyway, okay, so yeah, so I had the 72K win, and I think that was the point where I was like, okay, I'm, let's say I was probably like 28, 27, 28 at that time, and I was like feeling absolutely horrendously, like physically. I was 280 pounds. I was 28-year-old getting chest pains, getting out of breath tying my shoes, and I was just like, this is not a way to live. So I think the win really inspired me. So after that, I had some friends that went to this really nice gym. Have you ever heard of Equinox? It's a very nice
I
gym.
haven't heard of it.
Okay, it's like have you heard of Lifetime?
No.
Whatever. It's like a very nice gym. They have them all in the East Coast. Anyway, it was in New York City, so I went like I've always, even though I was overweight, like growing up as a kid, like I've always been an athletic guy. Like I love playing sports. I like tennis, basketball. Like I've always been, I mean, not like an amazing athlete, but a recreational and pretty good athlete. So anyway, like I would go shoot around with some friends at the gym after this, and then I was like, I need to do something. I need to make a change in my life. Like this is like I felt good. It was the most money I ever had in my life. Like at the time, I felt whatever. I had 60 or 70,000 to my name. I felt like millions at that
Yeah.
time. So I was, feeling good about that, and I was like, I need to get myself feeling better. So wound up pretty much going all in on like nutrition. I hired a personal trainer that I was seeing 3 times. I went from, keep in mind, 5 minutes at the gym, I would be out of breath, ready to throw up and go home. So literally just kind of similar to my poker journey, I guess, how I went from being a nit to, changing that. But anyway, I was started, working. I started actually loving going to the gym. It took a while, don't get me wrong. Like I remember when I first started going, I would make excuses to my trainer. I'm sick. I'm not feeling good. Anything I could think of. But anyway, so I started going to the gym. I hired a personal trainer 3 times a week. I hired a nutritionist that would go food shopping with me, start like really changing my eating habits. And then, yeah, within like a year and a half, I probably went down from like, I probably lost about 65 pounds. And I was just feeling so much better. Like, and I thought that honestly, I did it for myself, but I also thought it would help my poker game as well because, like playing at these tournaments are long, and when you're not feeling good, sometimes like you almost, not that you want to give up, but like you're like, I don't want to sit in this uncomfortable chair anymore. I'm very overweight, like I'm just not feeling good.
Yeah, and it obviously takes energy to perform at a high level at the poker table, like whether it be physical or cognitive, and have to imagine that like after 10 intense hours, you're probably just totally drained, totally wiped.
For sure. And I was not exactly like, I definitely didn't have the good mindset of back then. I would be eating horrendous meals on the breaks and stuff. And like, it just makes you tired. And I was like, I can't be doing this anymore. And then just for myself, like I didn't, I'm in my 20s, and like I said, I'm getting out of breath bending over. It's not exactly a good sign. I'm, if I keep this up, I'm gonna probably die of a heart attack by the time I get to my 40s. So
yeah, and that's not good.
No, exactly. So I had to make a change there, so I spent about a whole year at this point. I would say like I was still, so this is when I was focusing on losing weight, but then shortly after that, I started to travel a little bit more for tournaments. And then but I was really into like my fitness and health. Like I was always, I remember even like I would travel a little bit, Florida, Bahamas, go to some tournaments, and I would be in the gym in the hotels. Like I was eating fruit salad, I was really focused on making sure that I was, even if I was on these trips, that I wasn't really like losing it,
which is hard. Like that takes a lot of willpower to maintain daily habits and rituals when you're on the road.
For sure. I mean, of course, I definitely had some slip ups here and there. I'm sure, but for the most part, yeah. So I was just focused on really just like getting to a point where I was just, I was feeling better and, not getting out of breath all the time. So that happened for about a year, and then so my poker journey continued. I was playing, had some decent scores here and there, but nothing.
As you were going along and improving your physical health, did you notice your poker game improving as well, or your stamina? Were there tangible results at the felt with like just changing your nutrition, your dietary habits?
Actually, no. Honestly, there wasn't, which is kind of, I know that's like I thought there would be, but no. My poker, honestly, I had kind of hit a point in poker where like I just wasn't. I had that final table, and then after that, I had some okay wins, but I just felt like I was not really improving. I hadn't continued to work after I had made the final table. Like I would speak with Mark here and there, but he got really busy he was involved with crypto, like doing some trading, and like he was just all in on crypto. He wasn't even involved in poker for a couple of years. So anyway, yeah, so I wasn't really involved with him. I had some other, along the way, I gained some like friends that were really good at poker as well. So, we would discuss hands, but I wasn't, at that point, I was still trying to learn, but I think like I think maybe I got like too cocky after I made that final table, and I was like, oh, I'm just like, not that I thought I was better than everyone, but like I just felt like the next win was coming, and then it just, it didn't come. So anyway, after that, time went by, and then I was like, I think I'm doing something wrong here, because I was just like, I would go deep in some tournaments, but I found myself punting out of a lot of tournaments. Like I was almost every tournament that I got knocked out of was me bluffing my way out of it. So
yeah. The what would Mark do is starting to bite you in the ass.
It wasn't working for me. I think because, obviously Mark has millions of hands of experience, and he knows how to navigate his way in certain situations that I, by bluffing all the time, was just not knowing how to navigate in those situations.
Yeah, it's just built up over his entire poker journey, right? And it's not even a thing that like if you're sweating him and watching him play, he can't even really verbalize the exact why as to why he's doing things in certain spots. And so, you're trying to like reverse engineer the why. And if you get it wrong and you're not playing with that, that subtlety, then it's very easy for being a volatile, ultra aggressive player to just start all of a sudden punting in inappropriate spots. Like that's the line that you can cross when you're just ultra aggressive, is you just start giving it away and you don't really realize like what's happening or why you're doing it, or like why somebody else who's also using this style isn't punting all the time.
Exactly. So I think at that point, this was, I want to say, the summer of 2017. So I had at this point, I was playing full time, by the way. I was done with teaching. I was playing poker full time. And I think I had a real rough World Series that summer. Like, I think I probably lost, like, my bankroll had been a little higher. Like, I was winning in some cash games and stuff. So I think I had lost like 50K roughly that summer. And it was a good portion of my bankroll. Maybe I had 100K bankroll or something. So it was probably around half. But even more so than the money, I think I was losing confidence. Like, I felt like I'm busting out of these tournaments. I'm bluffing my way out of them, and like I'm doing something wrong. Like I need to change something. Martin, at this point, Mark and I were still friendly, but like we were, he was doing his own thing. Like I wasn't going to reach out to him again for poker. So I'm like, okay, I need to do something different here. Like I need to reach out to someone else or do something. So anyway, that summer, a guy named Justin Liberto, he's a very accomplished tournament player. I had noticed like he was literally crushing everything at the World Series. Like he was top 10 in the Player of the Year for the World Series, had multiple final tables, and he was just like, him and we had never been like friends, but we give each other the nod here and there when we see each other. And I could tell he was like a genuinely nice dude. Like I just knew like we kind of had like a little bit of a connection. Like I just knew he was a very nice guy. So after that summer, I was like, listen, like I'm gonna reach out to this guy. Like I'm gonna do whatever it takes at this point to just get myself better. I'm the type of guy like I could do coaching like watching it online, but I really need the one-on-one coaching to really really get better.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's so targeted and specific to the individual player. That's really the major benefit of private coaching, is like, I can launch a webinar and give out poker information and like general strategies that I believe to be effective. But until like I see a person, how they're thinking, the actions they're taking, that's when, that level of specificity is just so massive to identifying blind spots and showing you what you don't know, right? Like that's the major thing, is like you don't know what you don't know until somebody shows that to you. And then all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, like I get it now. Like now I can tackle this and now I can tackle that. And it's just really hard to reach that level all by yourself. It's going to take just so much longer than it otherwise would.
For sure. So anyway, yeah, so I reached out to him. I didn't know if he had ever done any coaching or anything before, but I was just like, I got his number, I think from Mark or from someone else. And at that point, Mark didn't have, he didn't care if I went on and worked with another coach. He wasn't going to like resent me for it. He didn't care.
He's in the crypto world. What does he care?
Exactly. He did not care. So I was like, hey, listen, like I'm trying to work with somebody else or whatever, try to switch it up a little bit. He gave me Justin's number. So I reached out to him right shortly, maybe like a week after the World Series of Poker ended. I was like, hey man, like, I had a rough summer. Like I'm really looking to change my game. I think you and I can work well together. Like you seem like a super nice guy. So he got back to me and basically, said like he's married. So he said, I'm just with my wife, gonna head back home for a little bit, and then I'll get back to you in a few weeks. Let me think about it. He said he had never done coaching before. He had been approached, but never done it. So anyway, shortly after that, he had hit me back and said, okay, I'm gonna do it. So we negotiated terms, whatever, and we started doing it. We would Skype I think a couple times a week we would Skype, and then yeah, he would watch me play. We would go over some hands that he played and stuff, and it was great. It was just a complete new outlook on poker for me. Like, so now, kind of at this point, like kind of how I told you when I started with Mark, I erased everything from me. Now I kind of erased everything from Mark as well. So I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to go in with Justin, whose style is very different than Mark's, I'm just going to completely go in on his style now.
Jason, tell me about presence. Why did you think presence was the missing weapon in the arsenal of poker players?
So everyone's a mindset champion when they're running great, right? But when you're getting crushed day after day and you haven't booked a win in forever and the confidence is just gone, and you're trying to do this thing that you read about in a book or someone told you about, being logical and being happy that the money went in good, when all you really want to do is cry and hit something at the same time. Like, how are you supposed to be logical in that moment? But that's the only moment when you really need it. What you need in that moment isn't mindset. You've already read all the mindset books and you already know what you're supposed to think and what you're supposed to do. What you actually need in that moment is presence. Presence is the ability to connect the dots between who you want to be and how you can actually be that person when you need it most.
So let's cut to the chase, right? Like, how do you do it? How do you stay more present when you're at the poker table?
Well, you get there by first deciding that you want more, right? That you want to grow your intuition, that you want to create more flow in your life, and that you want to reach your full potential as a player and as a person. And once you get there, you can start trying out some of the exercises and practices that I've put together. And if it feels good, if you're enjoying it, you can keep going, right? And if you keep going long enough, eventually you'll find that you're just playing at really high levels, that you feel good with low stress, and you're enjoying your experience a lot more. Not just at the table, but away from it as well.
I personally would love to have as much presence as I possibly can in my day-to-day life. And if you, the listener, right now wants to add some presence to your game, visit pokerwithpresence.com, join Jason Su's email newsletter, and then schedule a free consult with the master of presence himself. One more time, that's pokerwithpresence.com. Did you ever consider that, there's strengths and weaknesses to both, right? Like, you can kind of just pick and choose and use whatever makes the most sense in the moment instead of this scorched earth policy.
I think now I realize that, and I think I feel like I'm the most confident in my game right now. And now I kind of use the strengths of both of their games, and I think working with both of them has been amazing for my game. And now I'll use strengths of their games, and then I kind of tuned it into my own, my own combination of their two styles, but it's kind of hard because they both play so differently. But I think just at the time I was like, you know what? Again, I'm just gonna go all in on this guy's strategy. I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to stop. I'm ready to stop punting out of these tournaments, and I want to stay in these tournaments longer. And his style, he's still, an aggressive player, but it wasn't. Mark basically was teaching me only three betting, no flatting, no flat three bets, no flatting on anything. We're just always constantly the aggressor. That's it. And Justin's style was more. He picked his spots. Obviously, he's an excellent player, so he'd be three betting. But his style was more about staying in the tournament, being in the tournament. Don't take as many unnecessary coin flips. Just stay in. We don't need to be basically what he told me is yeah, you're going to be all in the ace king to queens coin flips, or the queens to jacks, queens to ace king, whatever it is. But you don't need to be in a sixes versus king queen coin flip. You know what I mean? Let's try to erase those and play post flop more and just stay in the tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, that resonates with me a lot more than just insane pre-flop aggression. But I guess that makes sense because I'm a cash game player. So I naturally gravitate to wanting to make decisions post-flop and seeing the data points and using those data points to make better decisions. But so you change, right? You do the scorched earth again. You change your style once more. What were your results like after switching coaches?
So yes, I had switched over to Justin's style, and this was that we worked for like a few months. It's pretty remarkable actually what happened. So this was, yeah, like I said, we started in August. This was 2018. Started in August of 2018 and worked for a few months, played like a few tournaments, maybe at Borgata or something, didn't have too many results. And then I went in November of 2018 to the Bahamas and played this 5K party poker tournament. It was like huge tournament. I think it was like a 10 million guarantee. And I came in second place for 1.2 million. It was just like literally the coaching. Again, obviously, I'm sure there was a lot of luck involved, but like it was just remarkable. Like literally, him and I had only worked together for like a few months, and then just boom, immediately like biggest score ever, like bigger. He even said like bigger score than he had ever had, and he was like, he's like like I have nothing but amazing things to say about Justin. He's like nicest guy ever, like very very nice guy. I remember like him telling me after I came in second, he was like, dude, honestly, like this second place win is like feels like better to me than like any of my wins. Like that's how like great he felt about like, you know, he had never coached before either, so to coach me for a few months and then all of a sudden, boom, I just got $1 million win. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, that's a great feeling. I could say that resonates with me very much so when, you know, my private coaching students find lots of success. It's like, yeah, like my shit works. This is awesome. Like they're living their dream and, you know, I'm the guide. And yeah, it's really, really an amazing feeling. Going back though, that final table to that tournament the night before. Tell me about the night before.
Oh, so anyway, yeah, I was staying with a buddy of mine actually. So I was playing I had 80% of myself. I sold 10% to two buddies of mine that I had always been like, when I played bigger tournaments, I would just not even, I think at the time I had some decent money, but like, you know, just friends, sweat, whatever, just I would sell like 20, 30% sometimes.
Yeah, pepper the board.
Exactly. So anyway, oh my God. So yeah, so that I was staying with a friend of mine. We went on the trip together. This actually, I was still single at this point. I had not met my wife yet. And then anyway, we were hanging out and there was 11 people. I think I was in fourth place with 11 left. At this point, I was like guaranteed like 85,000 or something, which was already my biggest score ever. And I was just like super nervous. I don't even think I was as nervous. I think I was just very excited. I was just like, I really felt, and again, with 11 left, the 11 people that were left were like all very good tournament players. Like this tournament that I came in second was like one of the toughest tournaments in the world. Like this was very, very tough tournament. And yeah, I think I was just like super excited and confident actually. I was like, even though all these good players, I was like, I just kept telling my buddy, I'm like, I think I'm gonna get like first or second place. Like I just feel, you know, sometimes you just have that feeling. Like I just felt it was my time. Like it was just gonna happen.
Yeah, you're in the flow. You're making good decisions. You're not afraid. You're confident. All of those things translate into lots of success at the poker table. And yeah, so the night before you're playing the final table, first place. How much was first?
First was 1.5 million.
1.5 million up top. That's got to be got to be some stress.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So yeah, it was. I mean, maybe I slept for a few hours. I remember like I was just so excited. I had a lot of friends calling me, and it was actually streamed the night before. So like a lot of my friends and family were watching. Like it was just very exciting. Like I had never, you know, obviously a lot of guys that have a ton of success in poker have had this before, but for me, this was the first time. When I made that World Series final table, I kind of got snubbed. It was like, for some reason, that was like the only tournament that wasn't even streamed. So I didn't even have a stream for that one. So this was like first time I was ever on a stream or anything. And it was like, obviously massive tournament. and I had friends and family texting me and, like super excited for me. So yeah, it was really exciting.
What were you feeling like as you're laddering up, right? Like as you go from 9 to 8 to 7 to 6 to 5, like it has to be with every single bust out, it's like one step closer. Like, holy shit, this is amazing.
Yeah. So when the final table first started, I think I came in. So like I said, we started at 11 that day. And then when we got down to the final table, I was right in the middle of the pack. And I want to say like I was in like probably fourth or fifth out of 9. And then literally within a couple orbits, I had doubled up. Have you ever heard of Joe Cuther? He's like a well-known tournament player.
No, it's embarrassing the number of really great, well-known tournament players that I have no awareness of because just me sticking in the cash game streets.
Anyway, yeah, he's a well-known player. I doubled up through him, jacks to his tens. I flopped quads, my heart was even having jacks versus tens, and you're a massive favorite. You're like, obviously, 10 comes and that's it for you.
Yeah,
I'm out in 9th place. So I'm like, my heart was pounding, and then boom, all of a sudden I flopped quads, and I was like, okay,
yeah. You can slow down, Hart. There's
yeah. So after that, I wound up being, I think I was either chip leader or in second after that, and it was crazy. Like I kind of just cruised. Like I never, like normally. I mean, I know you don't really play tournaments, but a lot of times, final tables or any stages of tournaments, you're gonna have ups and downs or things that happen where you lose a big pot. But at the final table, that just really didn't happen for me. Like I didn't play huge pots, but I was just consistently like staying where I was at, grinding up a little bit and picking good spots. And just, yeah, like you said, guys were busting, and I wasn't even thinking about it as much like when they were busting, like, oh, just got another 80K, got another 100K. I think I was thinking like, oh wow, like there's only 5 left now. Like I'm getting really close to winning this thing.
Yeah, did they do the thing where they put all the money on the table when you get
They
heads
did not
up?
do that. No, that would be.
Do they not do that anymore? Is that like a thing that's antiquated?
They put like a pretty cool, like a sick like trophy out there, heads up. Obviously not the same as putting $1 million up there. But
yeah, why don't they do that anymore? That's one of my favorite things about heads up.
I don't know.
Tournaments.
I think that's only a World Series of Poker thing for like for the main event, but I could be wrong.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
but you're playing for the trophy. You've locked up 1.2 million. Have to imagine that, like at that point, you went from like 80K being the biggest score of your life to like this 300K difference and being like, fuck it. Like I've already locked up 1.2 million, right? Like that's a pretty good result.
It was insane. Anyway, let me take you back one step right before that. So this was the absolute turning point for me at this final table. So we got down. There's 6 people left. This was insane. I will never forget this ever. And most of my friends and family would never forget this. So there's 6 people left. I'm in second or third place at the time. I think I'm in second place at the time. And the guy to my left is the overwhelming chip leader, and he's like very good player. His name is Pascal Hartman. He plays all the nosebleed stakes online. I think he's a German guy. He's like part of like he's friends with like Fedor Holtz and all those guys, like well-known online player. Anyway, so at this point I'm in second place with 6 left, and obviously the pay jumps are massive. So I'm like trying to stay out of his, he's on my direct left. So I'm playing pretty tight at this point, like just trying to, and one guy had 3 big blinds as well. So I'm like trying to just let guys bust and just like play tight. So anyway, 6 people left. I'm on the button with about 42 big blinds, and I have 2 jacks. I had been limping a decent amount at the final table, but I decided at this point I was going to go with a min raise because I thought this guy had been playing super aggressive. I'm like, he's in the small blind. I'm like, he's going to 3-bet me because he knows there's a 3 big blind stack and I'm in second place. Like he knows I pretty much have to fold everything. So anyway, I open the jacks and he just goes all in.
Oh,
for 43 big blinds I had effectively. And he had like maybe 70 or 60 at the time, but I was like, oh my God, like my heart at this point, I'm like, I have jacks. There's a guy with 3 big blinds. There's, like a lot of tournament players would honestly, I've spoken to people and they would fold in the spot. Like they would want to ladder up and they wouldn't do it. And for me, I was just like, I've never been that. I mean, yeah, obviously laddering up is great, but I'm like, I want to win. And I'm like thinking in my head, I even said it out loud. I'm like, I could absolutely have you crushed here. Like there's a lot, he could have 6, smaller pairs a lot of the time. And if he had queens through aces, would he really just shove all in for 43 big ones? Like, no, probably not.
Yeah, it feels pretty unlikely in a spot where he's supposed to be 3-betting with a high frequency anyway. It's like, why not give you an opportunity to put the last bet in if you have, top of range? Exactly.
So anyway, I'm just like sick to my stomach, obviously, at this point, but I'm just like, I was talking out loud. I remember like, I'm just like, I'm literally like, look, I remember there was the guy that had 3 big blinds and then another guy, I'm like literally talking out. I'm like, you guys absolutely love this. Like, I think I said it out loud. I'm like, you guys, I'm like a guy, like, I'm not like a typical poker player. Like, I like to talk. I like to like have fun. Like, a lot of these guys are like robots. Like I remember even after the final table, the camera guys, they like came up to me and they were like, we really want to thank you for like being our entertainment for the final table or whatever. Because I wasn't like these European guys who just don't say a word and just sit with their sunglasses or whatever. I was having fun. I mean, this is once in a lifetime type of moment.
Yeah, you ought to have fun, right? Like that's how I am too. I'm always like just talking and interacting and making the game entertaining, right? Especially like when dude shoves. I mean, it's not like we can give any information away about anything, right? It's like just it's entertainment.
Anyway, yeah, so I'm sitting there. I know in my head I'm calling, but like I'm just like, all right, like I can't do it. Like I can't fold. I don't care. Like if I get 6, I get 6. Like whatever. So I call, and now my heart is like literally about to be out of my chest. Like this moment, literally, this is for the monster chip lead with 6 people. Like literally, I'll have almost half the chips in play if I win this hand, and the guy who was in first will be like down to 4th or something, and it's just like complete moment changer, like for the entire tournament. This is like the biggest moment of the tournament at this point.
Yeah, the Jack Links all-in moment right here.
Oh my God, this was massive, and it's massive for everyone at the table too, because there's one guy sitting with 3 big blinds who, if I bust, now he can jump up an extra 100 or 200K, whatever the jump was at that time.
Yeah, and the dude on your left, Pascal, you said?
Yeah, Pascal.
Yeah, like it switches the roles too. You go to being the big chip leader who's now abusing everybody else. Like it just changes everything.
Exactly. Changes everything. And if he wins this hand, it's pretty much a wrap. He wins it. I mean, he's going to win the tournament. Like it'd be hard for anyone to beat him. Like he literally would have almost all the chips. Like he would have 75% of the chips.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, I remember that I was like so nervous. I remember like just sitting there. I stood up and I was like screaming to the dealer. I'm like, please keep this clean. Like, I mean, this is like literally like a life-changing moment in this one hand. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't tell you his hand. His hand was ace 6 of clubs.
Okay.
So he has ace 6 of clubs, which
makes some sense, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was smart of him. It just seemed like a little, 43 big blinds just seemed like a little bit too much to do that with. But he's a way better poker player than me, and he's in a team with a great player. So I'm sure there was a reason. It made sense for him to play.
You could reverse engineer it, look at it as a math problem, I think, and figure out the ICM considerations and all that. I'm sure that if one were so inclined, they could break it all down and figure out if it is a good shove or not. And I'm just going to assume that it probably is.
Yeah, I would say, because I mean, I'm literally folding like, if I have like 9s there, I'm probably folding. So like he has to, I mean, I didn't even love calling with jacks. So I mean, the hands that I'm calling with are literally like jacks, queens, kings, aces, and ace king. Everything else is probably a fold.
Right. Exactly.
So, and anyway, so yeah, I was hoping to see like obviously a lower pair. So at that point, ace 6 of clubs against jacks is what, like 70-30 or something like that.
Yeah, it's no bargain.
Yeah, and we're talking about literally for this hand is potentially for over $1 million. Like I think 6th place probably only got like 300K or something, maybe less. I don't remember. I can't remember exactly. Probably about 250, 300, whatever. But if I win this hand now, I'm literally pretty much guaranteed to. Third place was $1 million, so I'm like pretty much guaranteed to be in the top three.
Yeah, we got our $1 million pot, $1 million pot brewing.
Yeah, so I think the flop was like king high. There was no clubs, and nothing that like nothing too scary, but it stayed clean. And then I remember like I had two buddies that were watching me. Like they were like, so it was weird how it was set up in the Bahamas. You couldn't watch it, but they were like down. There was like a little stairway to go down, and they were sitting on their laptop watching because it was on a delay. So they would watch and then tell me some stuff that would happen. And I remember when I won the hand, I couldn't control my emotions. I like clapped my hands. I think I screamed like, fuck yeah. And I just like went down to my buddies and I was like, we're the fucking huge tip leader. Like I couldn't help myself at that moment. I was just like, I wasn't trying to be like a bad sport or anything, but it just my emotion. I was so happy.
Yeah. $1 million is kind of a lot of money. I could see why you'd be excited. Plus, this is the culmination of, your journey up to that point, right? Like you are the one who's playing and everybody's watching you and your buddies are sweating on the delayed stream. I mean, this is, your dream being fulfilled effectively.
It was unbelievable. Yeah. It was like, and that's the thing, like, even when I won, like, of course the money was amazing, but I think like more than anything for me, it was like the fact that I proved to myself and other people, like my friends and family, like, shit, like he's for real. Like, wow, he just won $1.2 million in the tournament. Like when, over the course of a year, other than maybe the World Series, like there's not even that, and other than the high roller tournaments, like there's not even that many tournaments in the world now where you can even win $1 million. So it's like, and this was literally, like I said, the field was so tough, like unbelievably tough. And yeah, it was just like kind of shocking to me. I actually should have probably won. I didn't play the guy. So I wound up playing a super, super nice guy. He was from Portugal, heads up. And I think both of us were just like super, not that you don't want to win at that point, but I think at that point I was just like, I won $1.2 million. Like, of course I was trying, heads up. Like, of course I wanted to win. But I think at that point I was like so happy with the win that I was just like, I didn't care that much. Of course I wanted to win, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like it was like 1.2, 1.5. Like I was already so happy that I think it kind of got into my head a little bit for heads up. And I think I didn't play the best I could have played.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense, especially like this being your first time playing heads up for over $1 million. It's probably overwhelming and you're satisfied already and you lose a little bit of that edge that, for the next time, assuming there is a next time, you will have that edge because you will have gone through this experience before.
Exactly. Like I know that in my head now, like I just feel like, and this experience for me, like, and then I've had I just won the Sunday Millions on America's Card Room like a month or two ago for like 135K. So like I've had some other deep runs and other like, but now like I think at that point I was just super nervous. And now once like you said, it was my first time. Now that I did it, I think like when that moment happens again, and I believe it will happen once live poker is back and running, I'm pretty positive that I will make another final table in a big tournament. So I think when that moment happens, I'm going to be ready for it, no matter, heads up, whatever. I won't be satisfied until I win.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of emotions and self-sabotage and just handing people chip stacks because the pressure is just overwhelming. That just happens at these giant MTTs with life-changing money up top for the folks who are inexperienced, and that's why guys like Fedor, people that have been through this many, many times, are just ready with, their hands stretched out for these guys to just kind of give their stack away and make really bad decisions in these high pressure moments. Like there's just so much value in experience and being through this multiple times before. You just can't really overstate it.
100%. Yeah. I think, like I said, when I got the heads up, I think I was very like excited and confident going in. And then like, you know, you lose a few pots and then like, I truly felt like he was an online player and he had a lot of heads up experience. I had 0 heads up experience. So I think as the play went on, I started to lose some confidence. And then, like you said, you know, you kind of think like, whoa, I already won 1.2 million. Like I not that I didn't care, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Like you've already locked up $1 million score. And so at that point, like everything else is kind of gravy, right? Like you're satisfied whether you get second or first. Like you're happy either way. There's not a bad outcome. You know what I mean?
But I think going forward, like as we discussed, like, no, I don't think I know going forward. Like, I think my mindset now, once I did that, has completely changed. And I would, if I get to the heads up point, whether it's for a bracelet or any other tournament, I think I'm just going to be like a savage and not even think about the fact of like, no, I'm not satisfied. Like, I want to win.
Look, I totally get it. You feel like being a lone wolf in your poker journey has hamstrung your ability to realize your full potential. So I'm about to give you a golden opportunity to plug into a supportive tribe that will be the poker family you've always wished you had. How much money would you give for 1 hour of interactive group coaching led by myself, Coach Thomas, and occasionally past guests of the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast? For now, and this will absolutely change at some point in the near future, the price of admission to the live Poker Power Hour is 100% free. All you got to do to get your invite is head to chasingpokergreatness.com and hop on the VIP newsletter. No more excuses, no more procrastination. It's time to take action and put yourself in position to turn your poker dreams into reality. I hope to see that beautiful face of yours in just a couple of days. Cool, man. Yeah, that's an amazing story, amazing journey. I want to segue now to some, lightning round questions. These are questions that I ask regularly on Chasing Poker Greatness. And we'll start out by asking you if there's a carbon copy of yourself just getting into the game, a younger version of yourself, and they're just getting into it today. If you could sit that kid down, have lunch with him, and give him some advice, what would you say?
I think I would say to just always take the game seriously and always try and learn more, and always try to reach out to people that you think are better than you and try and become friends and associate with guys that are great at what you're doing, whether it's poker or anything else. I think for me, how I've had my success in life is always getting advice from people that know what they're talking about, whether it's the stock market, whether it's anything, just anything in life. I think you just need to associate with guys that are successful at what you're trying to be successful at.
Absolutely. That's a greatness bomb. And there's a quote that I love that you can tell who the pioneers are because they're face down in the dirt with arrows in their back. Like, it's hard to be a pioneer. Go to the people who have achieved the level of success that you're aiming for and ask them how they got there. What steps did they take? Like, what are the mistakes that they made? You can learn so much from other folks' poker journey and, not have to commit the same mistakes that they made in order to move your game forward. And really, there's just no alternative besides having someone, like we mentioned before, having somebody look over your shoulder, look at your game, give you direct feedback in the exact areas that you're struggling in.
Exactly. I think a lot of poker players and myself when I was younger, or friends that I have, I think like you get like a jealousy or like you start hating on guys that are winning and like say, oh, they got lucky or this and that. But I think in reality, it's like what you said. You have to really think like, how did you get to this point? Like, how did you do it? Like, I want to do it too, rather than thinking like, oh, they ran good or they got lucky. Like, no, I want to know how you did it.
Yeah, that's the thing that a lot of people say about Fedor, right? It's like, the kid just runs like Jesus. And it's like, does he? Like, does he just run like Jesus? Is he just getting like lucky over and over and over again? Or does he know some shit that like barely anybody else knows? Is he poised and present in the pressure cooker, and he just performs at a much higher level than everybody he's playing against.
Yes, I agree with that for sure. I think guys like exactly, and I truly believe that. Like I have friends that think, oh, this guy just ran good in certain spots. I'm like, but he's showing consistent results all the time. Like obviously he's doing something right.
Yeah, it's called jealousy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's just called jealousy. If you could gift all poker players one book to read, and it doesn't have to necessarily be about poker, what would it be and why? Maybe a piece of content, maybe strategic advice in poker, an app, something that you've bought recently that has helped improve your poker game, anything like that.
Okay. I would say Run It Once, Phil Galfon's site. I've read a lot of their content, and I've learned a lot about PLO and other stuff from there. So I would say Run It Once.
Run It Once subscription.
Yeah.
If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about poker, and I'm going to have to exclude making poker legal worldwide because that's a low-hanging fruit. People, okay. It just gets said over and over and over and over and over again, right? What would it be?
I would change the WPTs and all the major tournaments to only one re-entry rather than max re-entries, because I think it's just not fair that a lot of these guys are buying in for 6-7 buy-ins and then wind up winning, and then it takes away from these tournaments because a lot of the amateurs don't want to play in them because guys are in for 6-7 buy-ins. So I think either complete freeze outs or just one re-entry is what I would like.
And have the amateurs told you directly that they hate the rebuy element of it? Like, because, I'm outside of the poker world. I can only, I read on poker Twitter, right? But it's good to know like the pulse of the recreational players playing these bigger buy-in tournaments.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard people that aren't considered pros saying like, oh, it's not fair that Alex Foxen was in for 7 or 8 buy-ins in the Bellagio tournament and won, which, I mean, listen, I don't take away anything that he did. Like, obviously, he knew his edge and he kept buying in until he couldn't buy in anymore and he won. So great for him. But to me, it's just like, and even when I see it, I'm like, these guys just like, to me, the most frustrating thing, and I've heard amateurs say it too, is like, if you knock someone out of a tournament and then they come out and wind up winning or like take you out later on, it's like, it doesn't feel real. Like, it's like, how's this guy back in again?
He got resurrected from the dead.
Yeah, just annoying. But
yeah, I mean, can't really say anything about anybody that's operating within the rules, right? Like, I think that the tournament organizers themselves are the ones that ought to address the issue, because the players, like, a lot of people hated when Negreanu would just like shove over and over and over again in those rebuy tournaments back at like the WSOP in the day. And it's like, that's within the confines of the rules. Like, he's not breaking any rule. He's doing exactly what the tournament is structured to do. And, it's a process problem, not a poker player problem.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I have no problem with the players. It's just, I would rather the directors change it to freeze out. So, like the World Series of Poker, I think they do it the best of anyone. Like some of their tournaments, they have, there's not really that many that are unlimited rebuys. Most, if they're not freeze outs, they have like one re-entry, or like they'll have like 2 starting days where you can play one on each day. Like, I'm totally cool with that. I like that. But the fact that you just go unlimited re-entries, and then some of them you could even buy in up until day 2, it's too much.
Tell me, do you have an alternative solution? Because I know that like the incentive for running the unlimited rebuys is they make way more money when they do that, right? So like,
yeah, no, I don't really, because I think at this point the tournaments just wouldn't get that many players, so it's hard. I guess it kind of has to be that way for right now. It would be nicer if if online poker were to come back or whatever. I would think the player pools would get bigger, and then maybe we wouldn't have to do as many rebuys. But
yeah, blame longtime Chasing Poker Greatness listener and guest Matt Savage for letting that genie out of the bottle, and there's really no putting it back in, unless of course you have a magic wand, in which case you could.
That is very true.
What's your current big goal as related to poker?
I want like another, I would say $300,000 score or bigger, and then a bracelet. That's probably the goal right now. Another, like I said, a minimum $200,000 to $300,000 score within the next year or two.
And that begs the next question of what are you doing on a daily basis to improve your poker game?
I'm watching tons of videos. I watch a lot of Pads. You know Pads, Patrick Leonard?
I do.
I watch a lot of his stuff. I constantly talking and texting with friends, and then playing a decent, not a lot, but playing maybe twice a week now. But like on Sundays, I'm like 12, 13 tabling, playing a lot. So yeah, I think honestly online, this whole pandemic thing, I think has gotten me like so much better. Like I'm ready to get back into the live scene, even though honestly I've been enjoying online better, to tell you the truth. But I think live poker is just so much easier. Online is tough.
And you get to talk to human beings as well. Like humans being social animals, being locked up for this past year. Like I can't even imagine the run and the rush in casinos when, everybody's vaccinated. We've put the pandemic kind of in the rearview mirror. Like it's just going to be insane. There's going to be so much demand. It's going to be insane.
For sure. And then also the fact that Bitcoin has been going up so much. I think so many poker players own Bitcoin. So I think these tournaments are going to be, everyone's going to be flush with money and everyone's going to want to play. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be good times. What's a project you're working on that's near and dear to your heart?
I don't really have one. I'm trying to think. Is this like poker related or?
It could be whatever, man. It's your world. Just something that, any sort of project. I mean, you're a new father. I think that's probably a project that's pretty near and dear to your heart.
So no, right now I'm just really focusing on my family. I have a 1-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old daughter and wife. So yeah, the pandemic's honestly been great for us. I hate to say that because I know so many people out there have lost their jobs and it's been terrible. But for us, we've been getting closer to each other and just spending great quality time with each other. And the fact that, my daughter was born a little over a year ago, and that's how long the pandemic's been going on. So really, even though I'm not a super busy guy all the time anyway, like I would have been around, but like this has really made me even around even more, and just getting to see her go through different phases has been great.
Yeah, it's going to go one of two ways. You're either gonna bond and get much closer with your spouse, or you're going to hate them at the end of the pandemic. I'm glad that you guys have gotten closer.
I've heard a lot of friends and people that I know that have exactly what you said, that are at each other's throats and don't want to spend time with their kids anymore. But no, for us, it's been the complete opposite.
Yeah, that's great to hear, man. And final question, and we'll get you out of here. Where can the Chasing Poker Greatness audience find you on the World Wide Web?
Okay, so I'm not, social media wise, I am just on Facebook. So Craig Mason on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not a big social media guy, but
do you do any poker coaching? Anything that you want to promote?
No, I do not. I do not do any poker coaching. I've considered it, and it's something that I definitely, maybe I'll talk to you about one day, and I definitely consider doing it. But right now, no, just playing and spending time with the family.
For sure, man. That's enough. That's enough for anybody's plate. And Craig, it's been great having you on. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I'm sure that you'll be back sometime in the future for a round 2. We can talk about, your experience at the next giant final table that you make.
Same here, man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but I'm super confident that another big one's coming. So we can definitely get in touch after that.
I believe you. Take care, man.
All right, man. Be good.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Chasing Poker Greatness. If you have yet to subscribe to the show, please take a second to do so on Apple Podcasts or wherever your favorite place to listen to podcasts may be. For more content from me, Coach Brad, please visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com/enhanceyouredge, and I'll see you next time.